The subject of my message this morning is your life fulfilling? And this was actually inspired by a one-line text I received from someone who I had not even met yet. We were trying to make plans for lunch so we could meet. He has a part-time job, and he said, I'm off Thursday or Sunday. I said, well, I can't do either of those days. I have my book club on Thursday, and I'm going to a classical music concert that I'm actually hosting for the St. Louis Symphony meetup on Sunday. And he said, well, how about next week? I have Tuesday and Wednesday off. And I said, well, I can't do Wednesday because I'm going to an interfaith dialogue group, but I could do Tuesday. And he said, wow, it sounds like you have a fulfilling life.
Aww.
And when I read that, I felt it in my heart. And it was so different from other exchanges I've had with people similar to that, where they say, you're so busy. And when someone says you're so busy, it feels like a punch in the gut. Because being busy is, I mean, if you think about it, it's like people talk about a busy bee, or it's running around and having a bunch of activity in your physical life. Being fulfilled is, it might even be the same activities, but the difference is fulfillment is when it enriches you inside. When there's something that you bring away from that activity out here with something that causes development and understanding inside. So in reflecting on that, I was thinking about times that people either have told me I'm busy. I even had a student one time who said, oh, you're such a workaholic, and it's like, that is the farthest thing from me. But what people are seeing is the outer activity, and they have no idea what it does for me or why I even do the things that I do. So last night, I should have been going to bed, but one of the things that I've been doing for, I think, over 10 years now, there's an organization called the World Peace Prayer Society, and their mission is to spread the prayer, may peace prevail on earth, in lots of different ways. You've probably seen peace poles that have that prayer in different languages. There are bumper stickers. So one of the things they do, they have a division for kids that's called Peace Pals. And every year they have an art contest where kids from ages 5 to 16 get to submit art on whatever the theme is that year. And the art needs to have the words, may peace prevail on earth, in English, even though the kids are from all over the world, and most of them probably don't even know English. So this year the theme was freedom. And I had the opportunity to look at 20 pieces of artwork for each age group, 5 to 7, 8 to 11, 12 to 14, and 15 to 16. So that's 20 times 4, 80 pieces of artwork from children all over the world who were giving their artistic vision of freedom with the words, may peace prevail on earth. And as I looked at these pieces of art, I thought, this is a really important thing for me to do, because I think about what it might do for a 5-year-old in Thailand, or in Malaysia, or China, or Iran, to get a prize that, you know, their art was first or second or third place from all of these kids all over the world. And I also think about what it does for a child to pray about peace, to reflect on what does freedom mean. You know, think about what that's going to mean for these kids as they grow into adulthood, that at such a young age, their parents or teachers or whoever offered them this opportunity gave them a way to embrace and understand these really important concepts. So the point of that is that that was not just something to do to fill my time with. It's something that is very fulfilling to me, because it's part of my ideal to help people develop their potential in whatever way that might be. So the difference in my mind between being busy and being fulfilled is that being busy is having activity that engages our body and our brain, which is part of the body. And fulfillment is having a sense of purpose. Why am I doing this? How am I growing and developing? How am I serving? How am I contributing? All of those are a sense of purpose that contribute to fulfillment. So I'm obviously very grateful that we don't have serious COVID in our world anymore. I know it still exists, but I don't think we have too many people dying from it. But in some ways, I kind of miss the opportunity that COVID gave us to have permission to have time for reflection. And some people freaked out that they couldn't go out and do things. They couldn't go out and go dancing. They couldn't go out and, be around people all the time. And I love people and I love being engaged with activities, but I really love also the time for reflection of what did those activities feed inside of me. And so I have to give myself permission to do that because our very extroverted world doesn't really claim that as a virtue. So in my metaphysical education, I learned as a very beginning student of metaphysics a formula for success. And that formula is goal plus purpose plus activity equals success. So if you've done anything in the business world, you may have heard about goals being called SMART goals, that a goal is SMART when it's specific, it's an acronym, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So goal is something that is a part of the physical world. So the goal is basically, what is it that I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? The purpose is, why do I want that? And then the activity is, how am I going to go about getting it? And it is a very effective formula. If you plan your life with those things, you will absolutely have success. In my own learning and practice of this, what I discovered is that there's kind of a refinement or a higher way to tune that, which is a formula for fulfillment, which is ideal plus purpose plus activity equals fulfillment. So there is a relationship between goals and ideals, but they're not exactly the same. So a goal is something in the physical, that's why it's time-bound, that's why it's measurable, that's why it's specific. And both goals and ideals give us a sense of direction. They help us to know, where am I going? The difference with an ideal is that it is transcendent. So an ideal is not necessarily measurable. It might be. It's usually not time-bound. And it is definitely something that gives direction. So an ideal is, how am I going to contribute to the world? It's something that if you believe in divinity, it has a divine component to it. Even if you don't believe in divinity, it has a humanitarian component to it. How am I going to make the world a better place is the stuff of ideals. So my kind of overarching ideal is to aid people to discover and develop their full potential. Now that's not really measurable, but to me that's a very real thing. And to fulfill that, I do have goals, like I just taught a class on how to be more creative in everyday life. I've written some books, how to visualize, how to concentrate, how to do some of the things that Elaine mentioned, how to discern your life purpose. I mentor people, especially people who are in some kind of transition, like they're empty nesters, or they've recently gotten divorced, or they are retiring, or they're wanting to move away from working at a job to doing something, their own entrepreneurial endeavor, or sometimes they don't even know what it is that they want, they just know that they want a change. So those are some of the activities that I choose in my life that help me to fulfill my ideal. And one of the ways that I can evaluate, was this successful or not, is, did it accomplish that ideal? So one of the ways of having fulfillment, I have found, and I believe is true for anyone, is that as we approach our life, there are so many options of things we can do. I mean, I don't know about you, but yesterday there was a choice of probably 8 different things that I could have done that I was invited to. And the activities that I chose were based on my ideals of how I want to make the world a better place, and how am I going to use my understandings, my talents, my skills, my gifts to help other people, and how am I going to learn or grow and develop. So when all of those are present, we're fulfilled. And I think that that sense of purpose or meaning is part of what helps us to be energized with the activities that we have. So I sometimes get on my high horse about this, my soapbox. There's a misconception in our world about what it means to be extroverted and introverted. So the social media popular concept is that extroverts get energized by being around people, and introverts get energized by being alone. And that is not what extroversion and introversion is. Extroversion has to do with getting energy from the outside, and introversion has to do with where your knowledge and information comes from. So Bonnie was talking about hearing this message of listening, and when she listened to her inner self, then she was able to respond and hopefully save her car from damage. So that inner listening, that is what introversion is all about. It's not about being energized by retreating from people. It's about drawing on intuition and inspiration, where extroversion comes from using the senses and the activity in the physical world. And it's not that one is better or worse. They're both necessary. It is that people are naturally attuned to one more than the other. And in my years of experience as a counselor, dream interpreter, mentor, it's not something that really changes. It's something that's part of your natural makeup. And you can learn to do all of that. I mean, that's part of development, is developing all of that. But people tend to turn one way more than the other. So in terms of the choices that we have in our lives and how to determine, is this something that is going to really fulfill me? Is this something that is going to enrich me? It comes from knowing what your values are and what your ideals are. And this is why having a purpose also gives us a sense of identity. Because everybody in this room obviously had the same goal to come here this morning for this service. But I would bet that if you asked every single person here, why did you come here, you would not get the same answer from everyone. You know, maybe some people come because they like the community of people and they don't really care what the message is. They're maybe not even listening to what I'm saying. They're on their phone, or they're thinking about going out to lunch afterwards. But they're here because they like the hugs and they like the people and they like knowing that there are other people who think maybe similarly to them. Maybe somebody came here because they really need some kind of inspiration. And so they are coming for the message and what they can learn. And maybe they'll go home and reflect on, you know, what's one thing that I got out of this message this morning that really helped me. Some people come for the music because it's always beautiful, heartfelt music. Oftentimes it's original compositions. I mean, I really appreciate music and musicians of all kinds. So the point of that is that when we are choosing the experiences in our lives, it's not just what do I want to do, and not even just why do I want to do this, but how do I want to be enriched by this? How do I want to grow? You know, they say, I don't know who the they is, but somebody said you can't take it with you. And what's true about that is you cannot take the physical things with you. You cannot take the physical body with you. What you can take with you is the growth and development and understanding that you've built in your soul. At least in my understanding of what the soul is and what life and death is all about, when we die, we, meaning the self, the spirit, the soul, leaves this physical body, and so we don't take the body with us, and we don't take the clothes and the jewelry and the houses and cars and whatever other stuff we have, but we do take with us the understanding that we've built, the soul growth that we've developed, like, have I become more kind? Have I become a better listener? Have I become more compassionate? That all of those qualities we bring with us beyond the physical body, and that's what enriches us or fulfills us. So I really love plants, and to me, looking at how plants grow is a great metaphor for how we grow. So most plants require soil, not all do. There are some air plants or plants that can just grow in water, but they need some kind of medium to feed them. And sometimes, depending upon the plants, we need to add extra fertilizer so they can be nourished. They usually need sunlight, but if you give a plant sun all the time, even a plant that loves sun, it's going to burn up. So plants also require some shade or darkness so that they have time to rest and they can bring the energy inward. And that's very similar to us. If we are running around doing activity all the time without ever resting and reflecting, we get exhausted. I had a student at one time who was an extremely creative person, you know, kind of crazy creative. So she had this pattern that she actually was kind of proud of, because I think in her mind it was part of her artistic creative ego. She would go on these creative binges over the weekend, and then on Monday morning be completely exhausted. And she couldn't get out of bed. And she actually got fired from a couple of jobs. She had a job at Starbucks, and you had to be at work at, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and she wouldn't even wake up until 10. And she liked the caffeine and sugar that she got for free at Starbucks, but she did not like having to get up that early in the morning. But the point is, although she was doing all of this creative, excellent creative work, she wasn't giving herself time to reflect on, what did I learn from this? And if she had given herself that reflective time, she probably could have gotten up in the morning. Maybe not at 4, but she certainly could have gotten up before 10. And that time of reflection, I think, is an important part of having a fulfilling life. So what I would like to offer to you is, at the end of your day, go through either forwards or backwards the things you did during the day. And what I mean by backwards is, it's like, okay, the last thing I did was vote for these kids' artwork in the Peace Pals contest. And the last thing I did before that was put the finishing touches on my message and print it out twice, because the first time I had it printed front to back and I needed it all on one size sheet of paper. And then the last thing I did before that was make dinner, and so forth. And as you go through the activities, then to say, was it fulfilling? How was it fulfilling? What did it feed in me? What did I learn from doing this? So that then when I set my day up tomorrow or next week, I can hopefully make better choices about, yes, I want to do this because this is what's fulfilling to me about it. Or no, I don't want to do that because it'll keep me active, but I think it'll probably leave me feeling kind of flat. So it's interesting to me being in a book club, because for whatever reason, there's a popular conception that these women are in book clubs and they don't read the books, and they don't talk about the books, they just get together to drink wine. Well, the book club I'm in, we might drink some wine, but we talk about the book. And one of the things that I really love about the book club is that I've made some new friends, and I love to read, and quite a few of the books in the book club I would not have chosen on my own. but I read it because it's in the book club, and so then I get introduced to new ideas, and I've learned about history that I had no idea about. So for me, it's not only feeding my love for reading and learning about new people, it's also helping me to learn about new ideas from the people who I'm in this club with. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is reflect on the end of your day. What did I do? How did it feed me? How did I grow? How did I contribute? Did I leave the world a little bit better? So then you can make future choices based on that. And I would just like to read you a very brief quote from the Baha'i writings. If you don't know about the Baha'i, I don't even know if they consider it a religion. It's a wonderful community of interspiritual, very open-minded teachings. And this is from Abdul Baha, who's one of the teachers in the Baha'i faith. Material progress ensures the happiness of the human world. Spiritual progress ensures the happiness and eternal continuance of the soul.